Each day, thousands of Utahns receive their morning newspaper on their front porches, just about the time they're getting out of bed. What you see in the daily newspaper, the headlines, the news stories, the movie and television listings and reviews, and the sports scores is the result of an intense day of work from hundreds of people at the Salt Lake Tribune. They include the reporters and photographers who gather the news, the editors who examine the stories, and the carriers who make sure you receive the Tribune. Over the next few minutes, you'll be taken on a newspaper tour to help you understand how all this comes together. Upon entering the newsroom of the Salt Lake Tribune, you notice dozens of people working at desks, some talking on the telephone, others editing stories or discussing stories with an editor. Many of the news, feature, and sports stories already assigned to reporters are discussed in a morning meeting by a group of Tribune editors. They consider the importance of the stories and how the newspaper should cover them. Oftentimes, a reporter has gathered initial information on a story, possibly over the telephone, and now heads out to conduct interviews face-to-face or collect documents that provide more details about the story. However, as the Tribune's deadline approaches, the telephone becomes a reporter's lifeline, allowing her or him to confirm the facts of a story with additional sources or track down an elusive public figure who wasn't available earlier. And part of that reporting task involves discussing the story with a Tribune editor who may suggest added details, names of sources to call for more facts, or what angle to take. While the daily news gathering effort continues, other sections of the Tribune, for example features, write and edit stories for forthcoming editions. Over the years, this section of the Tribune has grown to include extensive reviews of stage and music performances, art galleries and movies, personality profiles, television, high society events, and outdoor recreation. Yet as the number of stories grows and the section designs change, editors still must assure each page is readable and flows smoothly. Downstairs from the newsroom, the Tribune's editorial writers and publisher gather to consider how the newspaper should express its opinion about foreign issues halfway around the world or civic affairs down the street at City Hall. The Tribune prides itself as an independent voice, not tied to any advertiser, organization, or political cause. The Tribune news pages offer cartoonist Pat Bagley a wide array of subjects from which to spark reader attention. Here he's set his pen to work on one political favorite, Bill Clinton. Down the hallway from Bagley, another group of artists, the photographers, prepare their day's offerings. And while they still carry bulky cameras and lenses to shoot subjects, the manner in which their pictures end up in the paper is all high-tech. No longer are negatives transformed into photographs on paper. Instead, those images are scanned or transferred into digital form using this machine. Then, a computer program allows a photographer to adjust the light, color, and size before inserting the image into the newspaper. Modern computers also make life easier for another group of Tribune employees, graphic artists. Those maps, images, or charts, like the one here, come to life faster and more accurately using electronic technology. This graphic artist checks the size of the chart, its content, and the colors of the human image at the top before printing a copy and sending it to an editor for inspection. In the late afternoon, Tribune editors gather for a series of news huddles to decide what stories will be published in the morning paper. This group considers a list of stories from Tribune reporters and correspondents for the local, front page, and sports sections of the paper. Several factors determine which stories and how many of them are published in the morning paper. Newsworthiness is an obvious consideration, news space is another, and that changes on a daily basis. Then editors also take into account the photographs or graphics available for stories. Once those news huddles end, the editors begin hand-drawing each of those news pages, column inch by column inch, to make sure those stories, graphics, and photo displays fit. On the other side of the newsroom, you might find reporters writing their stories or others sitting next to desk editors going over the copy. Nearby, columnists Paul Rowley and Joanne Jacobson Wells hold a huddle of their own, crafting just the right words to convey their often bitingly inside and humorous form of journalism. As Rowley and Wells complete their work, the sports staff is just beginning a long evening of conducting interviews with athletes or covering a girls' prep basketball game. And with the Tribune's emphasis on covering prep events in Utah, the sports desk sometimes goes to extreme lengths to gather those final scores. They've been known to call fast food restaurants in Colorado, where a Utah high school team is playing, or wake up a coach in a small town, so you can read the results in the morning paper. As the evening proceeds, Tribune news stories and columns reach the careful eyes of another group of editors. Those in the wire copy desk, for example, comb through the national and international stories the Tribune intends to use for the morning paper. They look for misspelled words, style errors, transposed numbers, or a place to include a local angle in a national or international story. Another group of editors staff the local copy desk, where stories from Tribune reporters, columnists, and correspondents are carefully scrutinized for errors. This process sometimes results in an evening phone call to a Tribune reporter to discuss an unclear point or how to shorten the story. Once the editors complete that copy editing, they send the stories to pagination, where each page is composed electronically using these page makeup units. Tribune paginators use these machines to form the columns for each story, then electronically insert the story copy on a page. Once they finish inserting the news copy in its draft form without the advertisements, paginators make a page proof on this photocopy machine, which allows a copy editor to check further for errors in story layout or composition. Then it's back to pagination for the final copy editing. Meanwhile, a separate company, the Newspaper Agency Corporation, prepares the advertisements and checks them for size and content. Then both the news copy and the ads move electronically to the final stage of the newspaper production. Here in the camera room, those white page proofs you saw moments ago are turned into page-sized photographs and sent through those large processing machines. But before they're processed, advertisements are placed on the pages. In the same manner, news copy was set. The result is a page-sized photo negative that includes both the news stories and the ads. And just like the page proofs in the newsroom upstairs, these negatives require careful inspection to ensure the stories and the ads are readable and aligned on the page properly. Moments later, the negative is ready for the plate maker. This machine transfers each negative image onto a photosensitive metal plate. It's similar to the process used for photographs. Within a few minutes, this Tribune photo plate is carried from this bin and attached to one of these rollers on the press. Now, the Tribune is ready to go to print. Every morning of the year, between about 12:30 and 1 o'clock, huge sheets of newsprint are pulled through these presses in several directions. At top speed, the presses can print 45,000 Tribunes an hour, or more than 12 each second. The semi-automated presses fold the sheets, cut and sort the pages, then transport them on long conveyor belts to another section of the press room. Here, they move down more conveyor belts to an automated stacking machine. Then out they go on another conveyor belt, where workers bundle the papers and send them on their way. It takes several hours to print a full run of one Tribune edition. However, within 30 minutes or less, the press trucks begin loading the stacks of papers already printed for delivery to places all over Utah. In fact, sunrise is still hours away when this truck drops off a load of papers for a group of newspaper carriers. But the Tribune's news cycle isn't complete until that newspaper arrives at your home and in your hands. The Salt Lake Tribune offers yet another way to receive the news in your home, by computer. Utah Online provides PC users with a full list of news and feature articles and information that appears daily in the newspaper. The extensive menu also guides you through a long list of additional choices, including access to updated news stories or a search of the Tribune's electronic library for previously published articles. By computer or home delivery, the Salt Lake Tribune goes to virtually every community in Utah.